I'd like to warmly welcome all of you. And again, I want to encourage you to make sure you're not going into any strain or discomfort in these movements. Really, it's up to you to be honest with yourself. Am I straining right now? Yeah, you might be. You might be so used to straining that you're straining. As you come up to that level of strain, how well can you work in that range from rest to the beginning of strain? Doesn't have to be a big movement. Make sure that your awareness is inward. There's plenty to look at, even if the movement's very small. Also, I'll say for the people who didn't register, thank you very much for coming. And if you want, this is my gift to you, no charge, if that works out better for you. But if you felt flush and you wanted to send a token of your gratitude, I would accept your gratitude. You could send it via PayPal at eric@inspiresomatics.com. And you could just be like $5 or $10 or $20, whatever's good for you. Zero is completely fine. And I'm recording this. There will never be an image of you out on the internet from this recording. There we go. So we're thinking about the sides today. We can look at the body as a front and a back. That's clear. But also you can look at the body as if it's two sides. And when I had a body that was achy, my very first bodywork experience was at a music festival. And the woman said to me, she said, the sides want to be the same. Now, I think that's mostly true because if you think about it, your structure is very symmetrical. You have two arms, two legs, two eyeballs. Most people have all of that. Inside, it's not so symmetrical. The heart's off to one side, one lung is not as big, liver's on one side, stomach's on the other. It's like asymmetry on the inside. But structurally, we're very symmetrical. But not everyone has symmetrical structure. People, for numerous reasons, can get caught in these bends, and soon, if we're held long enough and powerfully enough in a bend to the side, the shape of our bones will change. The bones will change their shape. So perhaps the sides want to be the same, but in some people, they are not the same. And in this lesson, I encourage you just to be open to whatever you experience and just get to know what is the difference between your sides. So if you'd like to lie down on your back, and it works a little better if your legs could be down on the mat, and if it's helpful for you, a pillow under the head is good. And just sort of tune into whatever comes into your awareness. Don't try to relax. Just look at how your brain has been in a habit of holding you. There you go. Just lying down. Sort of sink into gravity and shine the searchlight of your awareness inward and begin to see what you notice. Notice if you're in stress. Are you in the stress of from the residue of the day? It's been a difficult day. Begin to possibly discern the difference between the two sides. Imagine there's a line from your nose down between your ankles. And you're just sort of resting there. You're floating on the bed or the mat. What is the difference right now? The simplest question is one side more at ease than the other? I mean, I laid down before this class, and it was so spectacular that all the achiness was on one side, all the tension, the smallness, but it might not be that way for you. Are your sides equal? Do they seem equal to your brain? Is one side more real than the other? Is there a difference in the space, the weight of one side compared to the other? And as you're breathing, sort of tune into the breath and take control of the breath, manual control of the breath. And just make it a little bit bigger. And sort of get a nice, easy rhythm, not a hard breath, but just slow it down and fill it out. And notice, well, is there movement happening in the sides of your body as you're breathing? Even intend the breath to go out to one side. Just pick one side, sort of breathe those side ribs out to the inside of your arm, sort of fill in the armpit with the breath and the ribs opening, and then exhale, close that down. Oh, that's interesting. Does your brain know how to breathe over there? And notice which is the side that your brain picked. And now let's try that on the other side. A breath in. Sort of notice, well, where's the constriction? Where does the system just seem to say stop? People might blame fascia as, oh, my fascia is tight. But I propose it's probably not fascia. It's probably sort of automatic control by your brain. What if that was just your brain's holding pattern of how it likes to run you? That's what we're looking at today. Maybe right now, just a nice breath in. Sort of try for a symmetrical breath in, breathing out to the sides. And exhale, fold the sides down. It's like the ribs are like bucket handles. They're made to sort of fold down, and breath in like a bellows out to both sides. Okay? That's what we've got tonight. What I'd like you to do is notice which side is more at ease and which side sort of feels more constricted or stiffer or just fussy. And in fact, I'd like you to be facing away from the camera, and you're going to have the less fussy side up, facing away from the camera. And please take a moment to get a pillow so your head is supported by a pillow as you're lying on your side. Okay. And you can have that lower arm comes out in front of you and bring your knees up a little bit, just so that it's as if you were sitting in a high back chair that tipped on its side. Just lying there. Let's assess what's happening in this side. You're facing away from the camera. The less fussy side is up, the side that possibly needs less learning right now tonight. And could you put your palm on the side of your head? Your upper arm, the palm is on the side of your head, and the elbow is pointing up towards the sky. Let's imagine that the elbow and the shoulder and the head and the ribs are all one unit. As you begin to just push that shoulder forward a little bit, just really try and push the shoulder forward. Let the elbow and head turn just the right amount and come into it till you can find, well, how does my torso make that happen? You're pushing the shoulder forward a little bit, shoulder slides on ribs, ribs close, and where is that line of constriction where that you're tightening up to push shoulder forward? And then slowly back out of that. Can you just see where you end up? Do you end up back with the shoulder up and the elbow pointing straight up to the sky? Just see where you end up. And now could you, a little bit like you're rolling that shoulder back, and the elbow's along for the ride, just sort of roll the elbow back, let the head roll back on the pillow, come into the first limit, sort of the beginning of a yawning sensation. And now that's your range from forward and back. Can you just go back and forth, not pushing against your range? Can you just sort of assess the suppleness that your system has? It's really torso doing this. The neck isn't turning really. The shoulder's not moving. The elbow's barely moving. And we just have that nice movement of the torso. And just look carefully what place moves and what place doesn't. And as your shoulder goes one direction, notice what's constricting a little bit, what's not letting the shoulder go forward. And then slowly pulling that shoulder back. Can you contract exactly the place that was not allowing your shoulder to go forward? Can you tighten that line? Is that a mysterious line? And then look very carefully, move very slowly, slow motion. As you start to roll that shoulder forward, can you be in that line? Can you sense the expansion in that distance changing of that place that you found in contraction? And now let shoulders slowly roll back. The knees stay stacked up. Slow, slow, slow. Rolling back, head rolls back on pillow. Gently. This diagonal of the front of the body opens. Notice where the constriction is there. Find that line of constriction. Now in slow motion, use that line that's the tautness, the line of the tautness. Can you slowly start to roll that shoulder forward? And can you light up exactly that line? Is that line a mysterious place? Which direction do you have to pull that shoulder maybe down toward the knees or toward your belly button or toward the front of your chest? To find that line, light it up, and keep your awareness in there. Can your awareness be in that space? Go so slowly, look for what part of it doesn't know how to open as you roll back very, very, very slowly. Slowly. Can you breathe into it and gently release it? Can you show your brain that it doesn't need to hold that place? Go slowly. Rolling back, just till you're sort of hanging on that fiber. Nice breath in. Really look at it and look so carefully. Take such a brilliant snapshot that your brain would know, well, oh, this line opens. This place moves. Okay. And now just like a tree sort of waving in the wind, just go forward and back, not crushing against your limit. What is the means whereby you get from here to there? As those ribs sort of slide on each other, the muscles, there's 2 layers of muscles between the ribs. As they slide, that shoulder goes forward and shoulder goes back. There we go. Okay. Now, lie down on your back. Just rolling back. And sort of sink into gravity. And just notice what's different. Did you get your brain to notice something? Maybe a breath in, breathing out to the sides a little bit. Okay. What's the difference between the sides now? We were just focusing a little on the side that possibly needs less learning. Okay. Now try breathing in and breathing out of that side that might be our focus side tonight. Is it completely offline? Does the brain not know how to breathe that side at all? Okay. Are all the aches on one side? Could you have been in this all day and your brain, it added up to how you were feeling today? It's hard to decipher this possibly vivid difference between the 2 sides. Let's come lie down facing the other way. This time you're facing the camera. I encourage you to start with a pillow gently. Knees are forward. And even just for our assessment, let's purely do it as assessment. That hand, the upper arm, the palm is on the side of the head and the elbow's pointing up to the sky. And think it through. Let's think it through very carefully. That shoulder will be pushing forward. Don't do it quite yet. Notice how the diagonal, this long line diagonal across your back has to open. You're about to do the movement. When you do the movement, could you really tune into exactly the angle in the line of where the brain is holding that constriction? So when you're ready, that shoulder and elbow starts to roll forward, and don't crash through the gate. Just gently come into it. What is moving away from what? Where does the brain say, well, that I don't really know how to let that place lengthen? Really get to know that line. That might be a place that your brain has you stuck a lot. Okay? Now, slowly starting to roll, the head rolls back on the pillow, shoulder and elbow roll back. And just, again, this diagonal of the front of the body, shoulders sort of coming away from belly button and lower hip and the front of your chest. Come into it softly and really look, well, how deep is the holding? Does the belly open but the ribs are stuck? Do the ribs open but the belly's stuck? Where is it? What is the line? Pay attention carefully to that line in the front of the body. As you push that shoulder forward, head rolls forward, elbows along for the ride, can you find exactly that vector that was the limiting vector? How much do you have to push shoulder purely forward? How much do you have to pull down towards that lower thigh or down towards the lower hip or to the belly button? Can you get exactly the right line to find that hard to feel missing spot? Elbow pushes down a little bit down, so it's pushing out past your nose. Fold that elbow down a little bit and really find the front of the body. Long breath in. Really be in that space. Can you sense what's opening? Go slowly. Breathe as you need to. As head rolls back, shoulder rolls back. Look at the line of the front. What place doesn't move? What place doesn't open? And as you push shoulder back, can you maybe find a hard to feel spot? How do ribs turn and torso twist? Maybe squeeze a little bit of air out of those ribs and back to find that missing spot. Does your shoulder pull back towards the other shoulder? Does it pull towards your lower waist? Does it pull towards your lower hip? And roll forward slowly. Can you be in that opening? Can you know that place? Well, where does it not know how to open? Pause right there when you come into the place that doesn't open and back up. Shoulder goes back behind you. Can you close that spot? Can you find that place that didn't know how to open? Can you absolutely take control of it? Yawn it out a little bit. Long breath in as that shoulder comes forward. Slow. Breathing as you need to. Breathe that line open. Can you breathe every place in the ribs open to allow the shoulder to come forward? And squeeze air out of every place in the ribs in the front of the body that helps that shoulder go forward. And now long breath in as shoulder rolls back behind you. Long breath in. If you had a tape measure in there, in that cavern of the torso, how long does it get? How long does that line get? Okay. Come back to rest. Just easy. And could you take your lower hand, have the lower hand maybe 4 fingers just on your cheekbone, on your lower cheekbone. There you go. That lower hand's going to help lift the head. And bring your awareness to your feet. Can you have your lower foot slide a little bit back behind the upper foot? And then can you hook that lower foot up over the upper leg ankle? There you go. Okay. That's it, just resting on the floor. Now, if it's hard on your shoulder, you could even you could have your fingertips sort of spread out so your thumb is on that bone behind the ear, so it's like I don't know, like a little spider over your ear, fingertips. Just be gentle on that upper arm shoulder if that's a problem. If you feel like you have more flexibility, you could have that upper hand, you could have the palm on the crown of your head, and the fingertips are going to come down on the lower side of the head so that upper arm can lift the heavy head. So just a little bit, just start it out gently and let's go very gently. It's not a hip movement. We don't want to tire out the hip. It's a waist movement. Could your waist begin to lift both ankles? Just start to lift a little bit, both ankles up off the floor, and notice how the waist closes a little bit. Don't strain in the hip, and let that down very slowly. The waist opens to lower ankles. Yeah. The hip, it's like if your head is north, you're moving your hip northward, and that's tilting the pelvis to point the tailbone up higher and higher up the wall. that lifts both ankles. If you want, you could uncross your feet and just have both feet lift together, maybe a little space between the ankles. It's optional. But the waist lifts both ankles. Tailbone points higher and higher up the wall. And then waist opens to lower both ankles. Can the waist do it all? Not the hips, the waist. How long does the waist get? Does your brain understand that the waist can change its length, its distance? And there may be, I'm not able to watch everyone, but what I invite you to do is, if it's too complicated, make it very simple. You could have your upper hand is just resting on that hip, and that upper hand could guide that hip up toward your ear, coming northward up toward the head, and that upper hand could sort of guide the hip down southward away from the ear. So can we get that gentle movement? When you're ready, you could lift both ankles. The waist lifts both ankles coming on up, not to a strain. Not to a strain. Is the waist truly doing it? Could you have equal effort front and back? And then waist opens, lower slowly, maybe little steps. What if you lowered in little steps? What's the softest that your waist could set the ankles down? Okay. Now, just like your waist got to lift the ankles, this time your ribs get to lift that upper elbow and the weight of the head. So let's have that lower hand is just under the cheek there, the lower hand is under the lower cheek. The palm is on the crown of the head. The fingertips come down the lower side of the head. Just begin to, with both hands, lift the head a little bit up off the pillow. And have your hands lift the heavy head. Even push the head down into the hands a couple of ounces. Notice how your ribs are moving the shoulders that lift the head. Now, could you slowly allow your ribs to open? Just go slowly. Well, look carefully. What place isn't opening? What place isn't opening? Maybe back up into it again. Both hands gently lift head. The head is pressing down into the hands. Go very softly on the neck. It's not a neck movement. It's a rib movement. The ribs lift the head. The ribs fold down. It's like you're pulling that upper shoulder through your body toward the lower hip. The ribs fold down like an accordion. Head is pushing down into the hands. Ribs open slowly. Can it be like a bellows, that the ribs slowly open? Ribs open to lower head. That's it. Slow, slow, slow. This time we're going to put it together. The side of the body will be lifting the ankles and the head. Come into it very slowly, and softly, maybe 10% effort. Just begin to lift the ankles. The hands begin to lift the heavy head, and the head is pressing down into the hands. Now, find the line between hip and armpit, and can you fill in that line? Can you close the line enough that you know every place? Look at, where is your lower side pressing into the floor? And open slowly as I count down from 12, 11, little steps, 10, 9, just less and less effort, 8, 7, breathing, 6, 5, 4, 3. The line is getting longer from hip to armpit. It's opening. Set down all the way to rest. And that's it. I mean, when you're doing your somatics, it's the care of how you direct your awareness, especially into perceiving the space of the body, that is what teaches your brain that you have these potentials for movement, that helps you get unstuck. Because where we're really stuck, the brain doesn't even know that place moves. It's forgotten. Okay? People they say, oh, I do somatics and I'm really into sensing my body. Well, the real problem is that we can't completely sense our body. It's hidden. It's hidden because our brain is holding us all the time in these tensions. And it's adjusted these places so we can't even sense. So when you're ready, this time that long breath into those upper ribs. And exhale, come into it softly. Look at, can you control even how you go into it? Does the autopilot say, oh, I know just what we're doing here. I'm good at tightening that place in my body. Right now, pause at just a low effort. What place is on 100% already? Can you use the rest of the line? Close it up. Ankles come up just a little bit. The head is pressing into the hands. Open slowly. Little steps. Little steps. Slowly, softly. Setting down. How softly can you set down? Breathing all the way. Look at the space. What rib space is opening now? And what rib space is opening now? Maybe back up into it a little bit. Right? Even if you're already down, back up into the contraction. And with finesse, can you control it all the way, coming out of that very subtle contraction? Because your brain's holding you in a subtle contraction all day. Can you? Not stretching. The brain won't learn from a stretch. You have to teach the brain to release you, that automatic part that's running you. That's what we're trying to do with this practice. Lower slowly and take your time. Okay. So once the head is down, let's have that palm is on the side of the head and the elbow is up. Yep. And now, keeping the knees stacked together, just sort of roll forward and back now and notice what you've got. Gentle, gentle. Look at it. Slower, slower, slower. The ribs, the torso twists. Where is the stuckness? Are you more stuck in back or in front? As you roll back, is that the line that's hindered? Is that the constriction line? Or as you roll forward, which is that line that's constricted? Okay, let's look at it. Let's break it down more subtly. So come back to lying on your side with your elbow up and your palm on the crown of the head, and the fingertips are holding that lower side of the head, if that's comfortable on your shoulder. Not into a stretch with the shoulder. And it's optional whether you even use a pillow. I don't use a pillow and I don't use my lower hand. But if you'd like to, please do. If your front was the constricting place, could that upper hand hold the back of your neck? Okay. And if the back was your more constricting line, that elbow didn't like to come forward, you're instead of your hand right on the crown of your head, have it be sort of where the crown of the head meets the forehead, a little more toward the front. Okay? So we're customizing it. You get to customize your somatics, breaking all the rules, and we're stuck in between the places we think we're not stuck. Okay? It's hiding. If your front was constricted and your hand is holding the back of your neck, you're going to curl up a little bit in front. And if your back was constricted and your hand is more on your forehead, that elbow is going to come back behind you as you do this movement called the side bend, as we do the same contraction we've been doing. Okay? So when you're ready, that gentle breath in, breathe into those ribs, look at where it opens, where it doesn't. On the exhale, closing it down. If the back was constricting, start to arch your back and push that shoulder back behind you, adding it to the hand lifting the heavy head. The head is pushing down, ankles come up. And if the front was constricted, curl your shoulder forward and elbow comes forward towards the knees as both ankles lift and curl up a little bit. Okay, you've customized it. Find the place you need to find and open slowly. 12. 11, 10, 9, breathing, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's good. And this time, just make it a pleasurable contraction, looking for the place you can't feel as you go into that same contraction. Just customize it for you. Hand lifts the heavy head, closing the ribs, ankles come up. Find just enough of the waist, just so you give a nod that the waist is involved. Curling forward if you need to, or bringing that shoulder back like a yawn if you need to. Find the missing spot. Find the line that's hard to feel and light it up with just enough effort that you fill in the missing place. Fill in the map. Be in that place as it opens. Which direction does your shoulder need to go slowly as those ribs open to know that whole line lengthening? How vivid can you show your brain so that it will never forget? It will likely forget but now just show it that this place, that you can run it, that the autopilot doesn't have its grip on you so completely. Okay? Because these patterns, the brain gets good at what it does a lot of. So as we get stuck in these tension patterns, it's sort of like a needle skipping in the record groove. It's worn deep. So in our practice, we need to keep pulling ourselves out of it again and again, because when the going gets tough, it will contract. And asymmetry, very often the root of it, and I agree with Thomas Hanna that most likely the root of it is from long ago injury. Right now, just sort of have palm on the top of your head and roll that shoulder forward and back, and the head rolls with it. And just elbow goes back. And just enjoy if you've made a change. Just look at it like a tree swaying in the wind, forward and back. Okay, we're just doing a little experiment tonight. Okay? So, lie down on your back. There we go. And legs could be down on the mat if that's comfortable on your back. Arms could be by your side if that's comfortable. And imagine that line from nose down between your ankles. And just look in there. What we're trying to connect to this superpower that we have, this superpower of self-observation, because part of it, the problem is that we're not noticing. It's just outside our awareness. As you practice, when you have a 5-minute practice session to do some pandiculation, like this movement that we focused on tonight, the side bend, if you were lying down and only had 5 minutes, the next time you're waiting for somebody, just say, I'm going to lie down, I'm going to do my somatics. Oh, one side really needs it today. I'm just going to do the side bend like 5 or 6 times. I'm going to maybe go a little more toward the front. I'm going to go a little more toward the back. Can I help my sides be more equal? Did you make the sides more the same with this practice? Was your brain running you in this loop, this holding pattern? That's what we're thinking about today. Think about the focus side, the side that we did the side bend on mostly. Could you take a breath in just to the ribs in that side? Look at how well that moves, and exhale, close those ribs and fold the ribs down to squeeze all the air out of that side. Breath in, let that open. You could let the body move a little bit to let the ribs move. And exhale and sort of, just notice what's the volume of breath of that type of breathing. We're trying to breathe with the side of the body. That's like advanced yogi stuff, and here you're doing it. Okay, so now let's try the other side, the non-focused side today, but it was the side that you felt like wasn't so stuck to start with, and breathe into that side. And exhale from that side. We did a little bit of movement. We did that nice rotational pandiculation, a little bit pushing elbow forward and elbow and shoulder back, and sort of yawning out the torso. And just sort of notice that. Okay. So bring knees up and feet on the floor. Lying on your back, knees are up. Yeah. And keeping the knees the knees are together. They don't need to be glued together, but they're moving as one unit. Could you let knees go gently over to one side? Okay, gently, gentle, gentle. And just back and forth going all the way to the other side. Slow it down. How can you be in control of it all the way? Can you know where your knees are as they go slowly? Notice how the side of the body opens to allow the knees to go to the side. Yep. And now, as knees gently go all the way to the opposite, could head turn just as gently the opposite direction that the knees are going? Head turns opposite knees. Head rolls opposite knees. Everything comes back to the center. Knees pull up to the top. Look carefully. What are the sides doing in this movement? Now, knees go all the way to coming all the way across to the other side as head rolls just as gently opposite the knees. And pause as you're out to the side like that. Look carefully at that beautiful twist of the spine, and look also a little further out. How does the torso, if you're going to twist and sort of wring it out like a wash rag a little bit, if you're going to twist 1% more, how do you use your sides and ribs to wring out the spine gently, head opposite knees, pleasurable effort, slowly coming back to center? Everything you just tighten gets to lengthen even more and more as you go all the way over to the other side, and come gently, just rest against that stiffness and wring it out softly. Push gently against it. Where's the spot that your brain isn't using the ribs, that it isn't twisting the spine? Where's the spot it forgot that you could twist? Sort of wring it out gently, pleasurable effort. And without trying to push further, could you control the movement all the way? Could you play a harmony? It's like the xylophone. Every rib, every vertebrae, all the way down, turns the pelvis, that turns and delivers the head. And can you wring out the ribs? Can you find everything we did in the side bend? One side is open and one side is closed. And then we're going all the way to the other side. Just one or two more times, just easy. That's such a nice one, doing this very simple version of the wash rag. When you wake up in the morning, head opposite knees, but it's the torso. The stiffness is, your brain is controlling that. The stiffness is, it feels like it's happening to us, but we are trapping ourselves. The brain is running the stiffness, and the stiffness is hiding. Okay? Now, back off that effort. Could you make it so you're not crashing into that soreness or stiffness? Could you find the range of your suppleness and ease now, just easy? And then legs come down on the mat, and arms are by your side, and just rest. And look at yourself as, are you two sides? Are the sides, how different are they now? How interconnected are the sides? Are you one? Are you in your body now? Could you put yourself in there and know the space of your body? That's what we're trying to do. We're like so much where our brain is like, it's like a lookout tower and our body's moving us around. Can you actually be in it? Well, we need to create space. Breathe in. Sense that space, and exhale. Squeeze the air out. Both sides of the ribs are pushing the air out. The chest sinks. Push the chest down to the floor a little bit. Long breath in. What place doesn't know how to open? On the next exhale, the last exhale, close that place that didn't know how to open. Long breath in. Slowly. Does that place know how to open? Can you find the places you're stuck, and can you teach your brain that it doesn't have to hold you that way? That's the challenge. Because if you don't teach it, that automatic part of your brain will have a grip on you. And as we get older and your brain has more and more practice, soon it's really got you in its grip. Okay. So that concludes my class for tonight. Thank you very much for looking deeply. I encourage you in your somatics to break the movement down, even the side bend. We could have broken it down much, much more. It's tricky with people with all different levels, and some people I can see better than others. The beauty of having one-on-one sessions, I'll just do a little plug. One-on-one sessions, we can really dial it in and really get this to work for you. If you'd ever like to, I'd be delighted to talk with you about that at inspiresomatics.com. But mostly, thank you very much for practicing tonight. And the side bend is one of the movements that you take to the desert island with you. It's one of the 5 movements I think is essential to have to clear out how we get stuck. And I have a movement on YouTube, a video, Eric Cooper Somatics, the classic side bend, and I teach you the side bend. And that's what we did tonight. So thank you very much. And right now, if you'd like to stick around, that concludes the class. If you'd like to stick around, I'd be delighted to hear about your observations and what you noticed, the difference between the sides before and after. There you go. Thank you. What did you notice?
My shoulders and my arms have been really tense. So I almost was avoiding going into side bend just because of the way it would make my shoulder feel. But then I did it. And then doing the side so many times is like helping recalibrate things, I think.
I would encourage you in your practice to go gently so that you can do as many times as you need. So dial back the burden of the intensity, whether it's the intellectual intensity of focusing the awareness or even the movement intensity. Yes, very nice. Would anybody else like to share?
I noticed when you said to put the hand on the forehead, which was the one I chose, I could gain greater access to the stuck part at the back.
The structure is so magnificent that in a way we have an infinity of movement. Between every angle, there's a little, these movement, the way the anatomy works is lots of fan-shaped structures that we don't just get stuck in north, south, east, and west. We get stuck in south, southeast, and it's hiding. So I encourage you to customize it for you. Go a little bit off course intentionally to find that hard to sense place, because that's where the brain's adjusted so you don't know it. That's where we're trapped. We're trapped outside our sensory awareness.
I always find that the breath is such a good kind of like compass or means of noticing. It shows so well how much space there is on the inside, in the sense of like physical space, but also like consciousness space. It's and today I found that the transformation in how much space could my body take up, when breathing. There was a remarkable change in just so seemingly small an amount of movement,
Yes, thank you. It's almost existential to consider, do we take up space? Well, if you never perceive the space you take up, well, it's just a belief that we exist. Your experience is undeniable. It's true for you. So yes, it's so easy to overlook the importance of that observation. Thank you for putting it so well.
I just really appreciated how the two movements, the side bend and the upper torso movement, and noticing the diagonal across the front and back, and then to do the kind of, I know it as a windshield washer of your knees and head. And I thought I really appreciated how those two movements really connected for me. Those once I went inward, the torso was moving in the same way.
Twisting is sort of the culmination in many ways of human movement. That in your exploration, I invite you to understand how the front of the body contributes to twist, how each side contributes, and also how the back contributes. If you have control of all of that, that will help you get through life. Humans use their twisting ability to balance in their walking, in their gait. We're very special in that respect. We're very good at twisting, or have the potential to be.
This was such a wonderful experience. Thank you so much. I am just ending my breathwork facilitator training. So I love the last comment about the breath, and I look forward to next week as well. This is my first time experimenting with this outside of the breath, where we try to move things through our body. And I noticed it takes me a while to drop into my body. Like, you know, at the beginning of class, just to come out of my day and to really just drop into my body. It's a lot. It's a lot for a normal human to be able to do. And even last class, because it was my first one, it took me about halfway through the class. And this time I was able to do it quicker and really, really notice how my body changed from the beginning to the end. And it was really beautiful because I've held this tension in my lower right back for 20 years. And I feel it. And now we can talk to each other a little bit.
Yes. As you begin to foster the relationship with these places and reconnect, it's a process. So it's not like you connect once and the job is done. You go back, and how do you begin just to ultimately have a knowledge that that is you, that it doesn't want to go back to the old pattern? How do we change the habit is sort of the challenge. I have some movements that I developed to truly reconnect to those places in the low back. The classic somatics wasn't enough. If you ever want to, I'd be glad to show that to you. Where we're strong, the brain gets in these holding patterns where it's very much outside our awareness. Some places can be working, and we seem to be connected to those, but other layers in, we don't understand that well. How does your anatomy like to breathe? Can it breathe can you breathe intentionally in every direction? Not all the time, but have control so that you have the full repertoire of your breathing potential. That's how I think about it. So thank you very much for coming tonight. The more you reconnect, the more you know yourself. That's, I think, what I'm trying to say. So it's a process, and I encourage you to go further. It's really exciting work to do. We can go further next Tuesday. Okay? All right. Bye-bye.